Welcome to the Holland IQ Global Impact Summits, and I am delighted to be here with Segun Ogunwale from Bridgia. We'll be hearing a little bit from Segun in just a moment, but I'm Lucy Blakemore. I'm the VP for Global Insights at Holland IQ, and it's my absolute pleasure to be spending a little bit of time learning more with everybody about the Africa region, and in particular what Bridgia is doing. So without any further delay, let's get straight to the person who knows most about Bridgia. Segun, please say hi and go ahead and take us through a little bit of background.
Okay, Lucy, thank you so much. Yeah, so at Bridgia, summarily, what we are doing is to support the transition of African students into the world of work. So I'm going to start with the why. Why are we doing this in the first place? So today, Africa has the largest youth population in the world, and this is expected to continue for the next decades to come. The question is this youth population a burden or an opportunity? For it to be an opportunity, that youth population has to be converted into human capital, not just human population, but human capital. One of the most effective platforms to ensure that this is done is higher education on the continent. But unfortunately, there's a wide divide between the industry and higher education in terms of the fact that the industry is saying, higher education, you need to be more responsive to my needs. I want graduates that are ready to work from day one, that are ready to transition into the world of work as much as possible. So to bridge this gap, what Bridgia simply does is to take the industry closer to campus to ensure that we support higher institutions in preparing students for the industry. And this is how we do it. So Bridgia provides a digital platform for partner institutions. On this digital platform that is unique to partner institutions, students, career staff, and even faculty can access the digital platform. On that digital platform, they can access industry information. So today, Bridgia provides the largest database of industry information on the continent. On the platform, we have profiles of more than 40 industries so that students can see what is out there, right from school and even after school. Where can I go into? Where can I build a career? What are the career opportunities? So this itself provides a platform for career discovery for students. On the profiles of industries, you have the top companies, you have the required employability skills, you have the digital technologies in those industries. How do I get in? What is it like to work in the industry? Another feature we provide for this is that students can then see there's institutions, alumni that are working in these industries that they can connect with. So that's the base. That's where we start with. And beyond just on the platform, there's quite a lot of engaging content on which students can interact with, on what is out there for me in terms of the career opportunities, in terms of the industries where I can go to, right from school. In addition to that, we have what we call employability assessment. There's quite a number of assessment on the platform where students can actually use to say, this is where I am in terms of where am I? Where am I in terms of employability skills? Where am I in terms of interest? And beyond just knowing where you are, that data can then be used to make recommendations in terms of learning resources to close those gaps. So that's another thing that we provide. And finally, also in terms of opportunities. So through the collaboration with industry partners, we provide opportunities to students in terms of internship, placement, and even jobs. So right now, our focus around this is around the micro internships from industry partners for students to work with. So it's quite a journey. The journey starts from what's out there. That's with the industry information. The second is where am I now with industry assessment. And the third one is where can I start in terms of work opportunities for students. So also beyond the opportunities, we have a lot of resources in terms of CVs, business plans, whatever it is that the student wants to do. That's also quite provided on the work opportunities portal for the industry portal. So right now, in terms of where we have partnerships with around 6 institutions, collectively reaching more than 30,000 students. That's for the institutional partnerships. In terms of the industry partners, also, we are probably a Google education partner in terms of technologies integration. Then in terms of groups that are also working towards what we are doing on the continent, the Education Collaborative, led by the Chelsea University, is a good one for us that we've also been able to benefit from. Another is the Job Tech Alliance, which is also working around employment and employability solutions on the continent. So for us, going forward, in terms of what's urgent for us right now, we want to expand on our industry and institutional partnerships, especially around providing work opportunities for students in our partner institutions. And for the industry also, it's important that you have as many institutional partnerships as possible so that they can actually recruit from a diverse talent base. So right now, the priority for us is expanding our industry and institutional networks to be as wide as possible, and to also ensure that the talent base is wide, and then we can provide as much as possible work opportunities for students. So that's quite the journey for Bridgia at the moment.
Wonderful. That's a really helpful picture that you're painting there. And I guess at that industry side of things, where are the most common, industry gaps that you're seeing? What do students want to go into, and what does industry need?
So let me start from the industry needs, at least to take it from a demand perspective. So right now, in terms of the industry needs, so we see a move to what we call skills-based hiring, in terms of beyond just having a certificate, beyond just having a degree. I'm interested in students that can come in and contribute almost from day one. So right now we are seeing a decline in graduate recruitment in terms of companies just doing graduate recruitment programs compared to what we have before. So today, even when that happens, companies tend to be more specific on these are the skills we are looking for. Not just so we're not just recruiting for potentials anymore. We are recruiting for skills in terms of the skills that you can bring in from day one. And for the industry, because of the rapid change that is happening at the moment, you don't want to spend 6 months, 2 years, training graduates to be fit for the world of work for you. So you want graduates that can almost fit from day one, that have the competencies, that have the skills to get started in the industry. So for the students also, most times, thankfully for internships, students many times, it's a new word entirely. Like I mentioned earlier, so you see a case whereby students are transitioning they're finishing secondary school in July, they're entering higher education in September. So the world of work, it's a little strange out there. Unfortunately, also, we don't have so much work integrated learning opportunities at the moment. Thankfully, quite a number of institutions are embracing internships as mandatory. So for a lot of students, it's just about the uncertainty. What are the opportunities out there? How do I get started? So those are the two gaps. So what we try to do at Bridger is to say, before the students even graduate from the university or from any higher education institutions they are into, they should be able to have a view of what the industry is like, what is expected of them. Another way we also do this is that there's also what we call industry champions. These are interviews with real industry people, profiles on how they got started, what they do in their everyday life, that we are also able to provide through the Bridger platform. So that's what that space looks like at the moment.
Wonderful. And you talked, related to that, you talked first when you were walking through the slides about that gap between academia and industry. Can you talk in a little bit more detail about the nature of that gap? Because I'm sure this is a theme actually all around the world. So for the region and the universities you're dealing with, what's that gap all about?
Okay. So I think the lowest hanging fruit in terms of that gap is skills. In terms of competencies. So let me give you an example. The computer science degree. So when you are doing introduction to programming, there's quite a number of programming languages that academia uses. For example, you talk about Pascal, you talk about Fortran. In the industry today, these are programs that are not that in use anymore, right? But that is still what higher education focuses on. So it's a matter of the skills that you're trying to embed into students in terms of the skills, in terms of competencies. It's not what the industry wants today. The industry has moved beyond that. We can argue that these things are still important for them to build foundational skills, for them to have some knowledge of how these things work. But the gap is wide in terms of expectations, in terms of competencies. That's one way to look at it. The second way to look at it is how we assess competence in higher education. So in terms of assessment in higher education, that's very focused on knowledge-based assessment, the ability to recall. The industry, it's saying, I want those that can apply. I can always Google that information. I can always find that information in a knowledge base somewhere. Can you actually apply? So one of the things we try to do at Bridger is to then say, in terms of our assessment, some of these assessments has to be application-based, not what just students know, but what students can actually do. So those are two areas in terms of skills, in terms of assessment, and the third layer is which is very much underdeveloped in Africa, is in terms of research and innovation. The research topics students spend a year working on, is it relevant to what's actually needed in the industry today? Or they're just textbook examples of research? So these three areas are key, in terms of where there's still a gap between academia and the industry.
Yeah. The way that you talk about where the gaps are and what's needed in universities, these things are as deep as how the curriculum is designed and how teaching takes place, which suggests that you actually would need to be working quite closely with universities. So what's the nature? You talk about a platform, but what you're really describing is much deeper than that.
Yeah. So let me talk about the depth of that for a start. So like you rightly mentioned, curricular. So right now, you see a lot of our curricula focused on content to cover in terms of that's how we design, right? And now you're trying to say beyond just content to cover, you need to focus on competencies to actually impact by the end of this class, right? So, Lucy, as much as we are ambitious in terms of the change that we can make, that's most times for a start, that's like asking too much. And you don't also get to blame the higher institutions for this, because the higher institutions also have to be regulatorily compliant to the regulators. And there are some things the regulators want to see. So, for example, in Nigeria today, for you to even revise an higher education curriculum, you have to get approvals from the National Universities Commission. And there are different regulatory bodies across the continent like that. So, as much as that's the long-term goal, so for us, what we just started for now is to just say, it's fine. Curriculum can stay the way it is, but Bridger provides a platform for you to see, how do I apply that curriculum in the industry as much as I can. So let me give you an example. So as a requirement for graduation, quite a number of students are required to complete a one-year project, so on which you write a thesis. So beyond just, picking a topic from the curriculum, one of the things we do is that on the Bridger platform, you can see the different research topics and things that are relevant to the industry at the moment, at this point in time. So just go to that platform based on your interest in terms of where you want to build a career. You can check out what that industry looks like, and you can look for research areas, innovation areas on which you can pick a project topic, discuss with your supervisor, and that works. So as much as the curriculum, that's the long-term goal in terms of impacting curriculum. Right now, we are still playing around. Let's work in bits, let's work in layers, right? And that's what Bridger currently does at the moment.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it sounds like the challenges are so complex that you can't bite it all off. You have to work through one thing at a time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So talking of layers, you're talking about layers, and I'm picturing the slide that you shared where you talk about the what and the where now and kind of how to get there. In terms of those three things that the platform is doing, which one of those is the most challenging?
Of course, opportunities. Yeah. Going back to Africa's higher education, all over again, right? That's a fundamental problem of jobs. There are so many people compared to the number of jobs out there. But you also have to understand the problem. So is it that there are no jobs at all? So that's a question we can argue all day. So what we're having right now is this. So in the developed market in the West, you say there's an unbundling of employment from work, right? There's an unbundling of work from employment. In Africa, the jobs are not there in the first place, right? That's the reality of things, right? So and what that results into is that, but as much as the jobs or the employment may not be there, the opportunities are still there. The opportunities are still massive. There's a lot of that needs to be done in terms of economic development. There's a lot of industries that are still nascent and where you require human capital to do that. Will those opportunities come as employment? That we are not sure of. That's still a big question in terms of those opportunities. Are they going to come packaged as employment? So one of the interesting things that we see happen is that there's a lot of focus on entrepreneurship, being able to create your own jobs where possible. And even when you're in employment, being entrepreneurial, those are two different ways to look at it. So, like you rightly asked, creating those opportunities have been the most challenging. So, one of the things we are doing at Bridger is this. Beyond being able to create those long-term employment, if possible, just work with organizations to have what we call some micro internships where students can come in for a week, see how work gets done, build a network, practice their employability skills, and and then use that as a launch pad into their careers. One of the things we say is that having the first job is like that's one of the hardest things to get. I mean, once you do that, I mean, then you start building your network, you have the skills, you have the experience, and it goes on and on like that. So, I mean, that's the most challenging. But we think with more partnerships, with more structures, with more understanding of what the industry needs, it's a challenge that can be surmounted.
Yeah. And are you looking at work and internship opportunities just within the Africa region, or are you looking to, for example, some of those virtual placements and internships that we're starting to see more of now?
Yeah. So Lucy, I think I have a confession to make here, right? As much as I believe in the virtual internship opportunities, I think there's still a lot of opportunity in the physical internship opportunities also, right? I mean, as much as there's a lot of opportunities for virtual work, I think there's also opportunities for physical internships where possible, right? So and there are ways we access those opportunities also. So right now, as much as we so that's another component of work opportunities that we have on the platform, which is called the industry challenges, whereby industries can bring a problem, put it on the platform, and then reward or incentivize students to solve those problems, right? That happens virtually. But beyond that also, we are still exploring opportunities whereby students have the opportunity to go in and meet people, see how work is done. So right now, we are revising what we call the Bridger Launchpad, which is going to be focused on that. So that doesn't need to happen forever, but we think that needs to happen at a point in your career when you get to go out. See what the industry looks like, see how work is done, meet people. So we are taking a more balanced view to virtual, physical, and yeah. So that's what it is for us. I need to confess about my bias in that. That's what it is for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that context is really important. And speaking of context, I'd love to kind of zoom out a little bit to the region as a whole. And I know we've spoken about whether Africa is or isn't diverse as a region to do this kind of a work in. But what differences or similarities do you see working between different countries, and whether they're very obvious, like language challenges, or more subtle, like cultural or ways of doing things? Just share some of your reflections on that.
Yeah, so in terms of differences, in terms of similarities, so across the regions, the different African regions, there's still quite a lot in terms of development. The need for education to be relevant to the industry is shared. The need for work opportunities for young people is shared. And the fact that it's a young population across the continent, that's also shared. In terms of development in the higher education space as a whole, South Africa is out there far more developed in terms of the higher education ecosystem. In terms of access to higher education, that's still a shared need within the continent. So quite a number of similarities. So quite a lot of things that you can do. In one part of the African region, works in the other part of the African region also. Where the differences are it's in the culture. In the how things get done across those places, right? So you tend to be in some places where the regulation is very regulatory body is very responsive, and you can move fast, and the institutions are responsive. So in terms of how work gets done, in terms of culture, in terms of that's where the major difference lies. But in terms of it as an opportunity zone, there's quite a number of similarities, and the similarities can sometimes even be surprising. Quite a number of similarities in terms of how things get done. Just the culture, the people can be a little different sometimes. So when you're looking at it also in terms of, so there's also a lot of regional commonality. So for example, West Africa, it's West Africa. That's quite a lot of similarity in terms of how work done. How things are in Ghana, in Nigeria. For some places, you talk about the Francophone Africa, which is also in West Africa. So that's the Ivory Coast, and so some difference in culture there also. North Africa, it's another. That's That's almost a different region entirely, also in terms of culture. More closer to the Arabian culture, and even to Europe. Then the South Africa, then the East African. So there's a lot of regional similarity also. But in terms of opportunities, in terms of challenges, quite a number of those are shared.
Yeah, wonderful. And what for Bridgia, where are you targeting now, and where are you looking to in the future, whether that's geographically or different industry-wise?
Okay, so geographically, I mean, we started out in Nigeria, which is, I mean, by far, I mean, Africa's largest higher education market. It also has the largest population in terms of people. Right now, also, we are onboarding institutions in Ghana. From there, we are likely moving to East Africa, then from there to South Africa. So that's like the regional footprint for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that just tell us a little bit more about the platform itself. So if I'm a university and I'm interested in working with you, how does it work? What's the business model? How do we work together?
Okay. Yeah. So for us, I mean, so like you mentioned, so each on the platform, each institution has like a customized landing page. I mean, so I come in on that platform. That's my university logo, and my students can sign in. So right now, in terms of what exists in the universities, the institutions have what we call a student portal. They have what we call a staff portal. So we said, let us add a third layer to that, and that is called the industry portal. So from the industry portal, the students can sign in with their existing university emails. The same thing with the staff. Single sign-on, and they are logged in into that portal. Partnerships with Google and Microsoft has made that possible. These are the two dominant tools used for email and collaboration within higher institutions, and that works. And from there, the students and staff of these institutions can have access to the content on the platform straight away. In terms of the business model, so quite a lot of, I mean, so the partnership is free, right? I mean, in terms of, I mean, it comes at no cost financially, right? So, and same in terms of the content, I mean, on the platform, in terms of the number of resources, industry information, these are all provided at no cost to students and staff of the institutions. However, what we are doing right now also is now then bringing paid services. So, for example, you want to do some campus-wide assessment, you need some dashboards for reporting, you want to do some quantitative assessment of the employability skills. These are paid services that are delivered to the platform. Another aspect to that also is what we call some industry readiness programs. So there are some programs that are paid programs that students can take on the platform. So in the tech world is what we call a freemium model, whereby there's a lot of services accessible for free, and then there's a tier of paid services on the platform. So that's how that works at the moment. But going forward on the long term, we are looking towards working on a model whereby it's entirely industry funded. I mean, the industry needs the best talent, and quite a lot of, I mean, the more we're able to deliver services to the industry, the more affordable or the more freely we can provide services on the bigger platform to as many institutions as possible.
Great. Just a few more things then before we finish. Bridgia sounds like it's combining a lot of unique aspects. Who would you say you're competing with in the region, either locally or more broadly?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things we say is never say there's no competition, right? Even though I'm tempted to say that, right? But the reality is this. I mean, one of the tough decisions that we've had to make over the past 3 months is transitioning from being an ed tech to being a job tech company, right? Right. So we are more of a job tech company at the moment. And I can say categorically today that on the continent, we are one of the very few, even in Nigeria, the only company that serves that segment at this point, right? Yeah. So like I said, we've transitioned from being an ed tech company to being a job tech company. Globally, there are companies doing remarkably well. I mean, what we do. We talk about companies like Handshake. You talk about companies like Way Up in the US. These are in more developed markets, or even Papa the Way that provides micro internships. So, I mean, today on the African continent, it's still quite a lonely market. That provides its opportunities, and that also provides its also bodies. That means you have sometimes to do a lot of explaining to say this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is what is possible. Yeah. So that's the reality of things for now. The other players, I think that we also see are actually operating outside the institutions. It's more of saying when the students are done, they can always come to use this platform. We can provide them these solutions. But we think that the journey to employability needs to start from the first year for the student, even right from the university, not outside the university. So that has made us, focus on partnerships with higher institutions from day one. And I think right now, on the continent, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, we are the only ones playing in that space at the moment in terms of addressing that need directly as a job tech solution provider to universities.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I guess just to wrap things up, we talk about a few different challenges in digital transformation and making those kind of changes. And it sounds like there's a lot of places to where there's change happening in Africa. We talk about three things. We talk about people and process and technology as being, we often ask people to say, which one is the hardest for you? From your experience, whether it's in working with universities or with industry or the platform as a whole, is it people, is it process, or is it technology that's the biggest challenge?
Yeah, so I think for me, I think it's the people. So like I said earlier, right? I mean, onto the past 10 years, right? The conversation on employability and career outcomes was not even on the table for major stakeholders in higher institutions. There's a large population to serve. They're competing to get into schools. So we are not really that concerned about what happens when they leave schools. They can always figure things out. So for the first time in the past 5 years, we are seeing there's more to do around career outcomes. Then there's a lot of convincing to do. Once you get the people right, I mean, the rapid pace of technology development that we've had, over the past years, I mean, technology is more, it's less of a problem now. Unfortunately, also because the population is young, you are dealing with a digital first population, so they understand a lot of these things, mobile, desktop. I mean, they're fine with it. So, but once you can get the people fully committed, I mean, sometimes people drive the processes, right? I mean, they can then do a lot of driving. So people have been the biggest challenge, and when we've also had successes, people have been the biggest champions.
Yeah. Wonderful. Segun, is there anything else you'd like to share with people at the African Summit? Any advice or thoughts or reflections you'd like to leave them with as we close?
Oh, thank you, Lucy. So, I mean, it's quite exciting what is happening in the Africa's higher education space at the moment. I mean, there's still a lot of opportunities, to tap. And as long as you are patient and swift, I mean, because it's like a blank space. I mean, there's quite a lot of things that can be done. I mean, it's also exciting. I tell people that beyond higher education, I mean, for the years to come, Africa, it's a big opportunity. As long as you're ready to play patiently, and I mean, then ready to go to the process. There's a lot of opportunities to build from ground up. So, I mean, so welcome to Africa. I mean, that's what I'm going to say again. Welcome to opportunities.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to hear from you the last little half hour or while. And I know everyone will be super interested to hear about this at the summit. So thank you so much for spending the time with us, Segun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucy. I mean, and thanks to the whole IQ team for the African, Summit, Education Summit. Thank you.